I'm doing this for everybody in this crowd.
Mm.
You know, this is I'm going to get in here and I'm going to thrash the Iron Tyrant around for every single person who knows what it feels like to have somebody come in and boss them around and tell them what to do. We didn't give them a chance. Everybody who's ever had somebody taken from them by force, that's why I'm stopping this guy.
Mm-hmm. Everybody, we are back with another super special guest. Our guest today is super thoughtful, genuine, down-to-earth guy. He is a professional wrestler who currently trains and performs with Three Legacies Wrestling out of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. He is Byron, the Kilt Man Simmons. I do want to preface this video. We had some quality issues here and there. Tried to cut around it as best as possible, but the long durations that it is poor quality are worth the listen. Thank you so much. Byron Simmons, everybody. Byron, thank you so much for being with us today.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be here with you guys and talk some wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. Been meaning to tap in with you for a little while now, but finally getting the chance here. I just want to start out with some current stuff. Did you watch Raw last night?
You know what? I haven't had a chance to catch up on Raw yet because last night I was actually at the school training. So usually now I got to go into the catch up mode. So I'm always like 24 hours behind everybody. So
yeah, no, I got you. That training is important. But like, who are some of your favorite current guys and just everything like that?
Man, I love seeing Cody Rhodes back in the WWE. I love if you didn't watch WrestleMania this year and just absolutely decide you have to get in the ring and try this for yourself, then something's wrong with you, and if you're an active wrestler and you watch WrestleMania this year and it didn't make you want to be better, then like make room for the rest of us, that was but no, there's been the WWE's been really putting out some absolutely incredible content, and then meanwhile outside of the WWE you still have you still have MLW who's pushing out some absolutely incredible content. You have a lot of like AAA Lucha, all those brands who are out there in the indie scene who are just putting out incredible content too. That right now we're living in what I think is like a renaissance of professional wrestling, and there's a lot of new stuff coming around, and it's exciting to see it all happening.
Yeah, absolutely. But then just your personal stuff, like how did you first get into wrestling?
Oh man, so my first like exposure to professional wrestling was seeing Mick Foley just thrashing a guy on TV one time when I was like 8 years old. And from that moment, it was kind of like, this is cool. Seeing Mankind, he had the Mankind gimmick with the mask on his head and Sacco, and just this completely unhinged thing happening in the ring. And it was a lot of years between obviously then and when I started training wrestling, that it was always kind of it was always part of my life. But I never thought that I would ever have the opportunity to get involved, and especially not in the way that I'm involved now. So that's been a really triumphant thing. And I found Three Legacies Wrestling through a coworker actually who had taken his kid to go see one of the shows and mentioned to me when they had just opened and they had maybe done like their first show or so. And I was prepping for a powerlifting meet. And so I emailed Ricardo and said, when I get through this, I want to talk to you about this. And I finished that powerlifting meet. That was last April. And the following month I started training.
What made you decide to make that switch from just like being a fan to like, all right, let me try this out for real?
Well, it was one of those things where I was considering my options. I was looking at where I was. I've been competing in powerlifting for a while and strongman for a while. I competed at nationals. I got myself on the national rankings for powerlifting,
Wow.
and I was not that I was looking for to get away from it, but it was one of those moments where you're looking at it and you're like, okay, this is how far I've gotten, and this is what it's going to require for me to go to the next step. And am I willing to do that? Am I willing to put my family through that? And if not, then what else are we going to do? It was something that my family and I sat down and talked about, and we decided, and my wife and I talked about it at length and decided that it was worth doing, worth trying for. And I kept everything a little quiet. So It was kind of one of those, only my most supportive people in my life knew what was going on. And there were some people, like, I didn't tell my mom. For a whole year, I was coming to visit my parents in South Jersey and taking our kids so that they can see their grandparents. And I'm covered in bruises and I have cuts on my face, and I'm a car salesman in my daily life. And so my mom was like, "What is going on with you that you're like thrashed up all the time?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I fell down the other day." And she's like, "My son's a klutz. Like, what is going on with this guy?" But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like you had to tell people at some point. Maybe she thought your wife was abusing you or something. You never know what runs through people's imagination. So, but yeah, absolutely. And then just those like early days, like you walk in that first day, first week, even first couple weeks. What's that look like? Describe the environment, the school, like everything, and just your emotions and thoughts in the very beginning.
So I came into 3LW from powerlifting and strongman, and specifically, I trained with something called the conjugate method from Westside. And so it's a very specific training schedule for weightlifting that we train to get stronger and we train to get faster. But everything that I had done in competition was really based on a 60-second time cap. Because in powerlifting, they'll tell you there's an announcement made that your bar has been loaded, and you have 60 seconds to walk onto the platform and put your hands on the bar. Once you put your hands on the bar, time stops until you complete the lift or fail the lift, whichever way it goes. So I had built myself up to being this athlete that was capable of doing this. And I came in my first day, and Ricardo's like, "Everybody get in the ring. We're going to run in circles." And we're just running in circles and running in circles and running in circles. And I puked. I think I actually, if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure I puked twice on my first day.
Wow.
And I was like, you know what, though? We're going to do this. Like, this is a challenge now. This is something where, like, this is not easy. It's a very different thing. But the school itself, I mean, walking in, it is the most welcoming, inviting group of people that I have ever met in my life. And it's so cool when you have somebody who kind of steps you aside and says, "Hey, I noticed you doing this. Try doing this instead." And the next thing, things just kind of, Ricardo says all the time that with pro wrestling, things will click. And you hit this point where things just start to click, and you start to realize that this is how we move. This is how we do this. This is how I pick you up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, to go from powerlifting, you're still athletic, but it's not like cardio. It's a like you said, a whole different thing. But yeah, and then just
Oh yeah.
how would you describe like your placement in kind of like the students? Like, you have that first wave, like Zoe, Al Snook, Clayton, like all those guys, just Jay and stuff like that. Are you kind of like that second generation? Where would you put yourself in like the kind of like the conception of legacies?
Yeah, so we've gone over this a couple of times at the school trying to figure this out. And yeah, you have your Gen 1, which is you have your first class, right? And that's Al Snook, Zoe Cannon, Just Jay, AJ Morales is part of that crowd. Um uh uh you know, Damian Nord, Clayton Adams. And then I started, and I don't think I came in kind of in between sessions in a way. There was another class, there was a big class that started after me, and there was a few people who started with me, but out of that, AJ Morales came back from a shoulder uh, uh, injury, and so that put him kind of back in at the same track with me, despite him having been in kind of like Gen 1.
Right.
So yeah, I would guess I'm kind of like the second gen. I was the first generation class where we had students that had experience.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, so before I started at Three Legacies Wrestling on May 1st in 2023, I went to Spring Forward. And I was a patron in the crowd watching Zoe Cannon and Al Snook debut.
Okay.
And I watched them do it, and I was blown away. I was completely blown away because I remember watching Al Snook in the ring and just thinking to myself, like, if this guy can do it, then like I can do it.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
I
absolutely.
stand a shot. Like this guy's doing this. Like this guy started and he's doing this, and I'm gonna do this. And then when I started working with Al Snook, and he became like a mentor to me, and there was so much that he helped me with, especially early on, that then the money and muscles turn there was bothersome to say the least. But yeah.
I bet. Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing though, just to have those peer mentors as well, because it's like that first wave kind of gets in there and they only have Ricardo, and that's amazing, on its own. But to get the peer advice too, they can tell you, hey, look, this is where I was at. I see you doing the same things, and we help you out. That's amazing. But then let's just talk about Ricardo a little bit. How special is that guy? And just everything for Legacy doing and building. Let's just talk about.
Man.
I'm sure you could go on for hours about him alone.
Ricardo is so, as a coach, Ricardo wants for us as students things that I don't think other wrestling schools have really thought about in the past. Because one of the big things with Ricardo is how involved in the community we are.
Right.
We had the food drive for the Downtown Showdown when I debuted, and it was 593 pounds of food that was raised.
Incredible.
And it didn't end there. Like people who came to the show and saw that and saw the giant donated the $200 worth of groceries that my family and I went and picked up that night. It wasn't just that. It was like a week later that Ricardo says, hey, we're going to go down to the food hub and we're going to volunteer for a little bit. And we go down there, and it's not Ricardo, the celebrity, the WWE alumni. It's Ricardo Rodriguez rolling up his sleeves and stacking soup cans in this food pantry and sorting food. And there's a group of us there, and we sorted our food, into, because they put everything into bins and then they separate it out and then they make bags, and it's a really cool program. The people who come by and get food from the Lancaster Food Bank, from the food hub, they get a bag of food with proteins, carbs, good fats, healthy foods, stuff that's easy to make, stuff that requires very little. If you have a hot plate and a pan, you can make it, and if you don't, then they're going to make sure you get stuff that you can eat right out of the can. But he's sleeves rolled up and just rocking and rolling with the rest of us. It's not like, okay, you guys go do this. And that's the same thing that happened back in September with the recovery event at the state capitol. When Ricardo, who I'm sure you're aware, Three Legacies Wrestling, very close ties with Blueprints, recovery. There's quite a few people involved in Three Legacies Wrestling, myself included, who are part of the recovery community. And when that event happened in September, he didn't stand up there himself and say, "Look at me." He brought Leo Fury, one of my fellow students, one of my very good friends, and stood him up and said, "Look at this person. Look at this guy who's trying and he's fighting every day, and he's got 1 year today, and this is what this is all about." And he didn't have to do that.
Right.
Freedom isn't doing what you want; it's doing what you should. And Ricardo Rodriguez embodies that. And the cool thing is that because he embodies that, all of Three Legacies Wrestling embodies that. So Saturday we have Gift and a Curse, May 18th at Millersville University. They've announced, we know that Janai Kai is going to be there from MLW versus Tina San Antonio, making her Three Legacies debut. That's a title defense now.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's a title defense happening at 3LW. We have Smiley and Bro Keller who are going to go at it. And the neat thing about that is the winner of that match is going to go on in June to face Joe Alonzo as a title defense for the NWA junior heavyweight.
Yeah, that's massive.
Championship. I mean, that's massive. Right. And I bring all that up because that June 29th show, that's at the Lebanon Expo Center, right? That's not going to be at Millersville or Brightside or anywhere else. This is in Lebanon. Wow. And they have already announced, Three Legacies Wrestling has already announced that we have partnered with the Lebanon County Christian Ministries for another food and clothing drive.
Yeah. Yeah, it's incredible.
This was not it wasn't, that's not a one-off for just the downtown showdown. I mean, this is something that Three Legacies Wrestling wants to be part of the community and wants to help the community. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. You speak on, Ricardo as a man, and it's like, they say like the difference between like a leader and a boss is like a boss may just, tell you guys to go do it. But like you said, he rolls his sleeves up. He's the leader. He's in there with you guys in the trenches. But yeah, that's amazing to be tapped in with the community that heavily. And it, like you said, it wasn't a one-off, like, hey, look at us, we did this thing. It's like, it's okay to promote it and stuff because you want the awareness, but it's not about that. It's about doing the thing. So that's incredible. And then
it's never about clout. It's always about awareness for the next thing that's going to happen. And that's just an incredible, you don't see that anymore.
Obviously he has vast experience all over the world. But just speak on him, like as a coach a little bit, the technical stuff, like just how much you can really pick his brain.
Oh man. So Ricardo as a coach, I've had a few coaches, in my time in strength sports, and Ricardo is different from a lot of them and the same in a lot of them, because a good coach recognizes what it's going to take to get the most out of their athlete. And Ricardo sees that, and he kind of pushes that, and he'll kind of draw that out of you. And it's a little bit different for each person. But one of the most consistent things about it is that I've never seen someone be belittled or torn down.
That's huge.
No matter how wrong someone is, or how wrong I've been, or how wrong it has always been, everything has always been addressed from a place of learning and understanding.
Right.
And I can't tell you how many nights I have tried so hard to get something right. I have just been pushing and trying, and I'm tripping over my own 2 feet, and I just can't figure it out. And I start to feel discouraged, and I'm just like, man, this is tough. And Ricardo will say something. One of my favorite ones is, he'll be like, "This is the first time you've ever done this."
Right. Puts it into perspective.
Yeah. And it's this massive thing of like, he's like, all right, it's the first time you've done it.
It's like a weight off here. It's less pressure.
Yeah. And then you come back in, a night later or 2 nights later, and you run the same spot, and all of a sudden it's like, oh man, I can do this now. And all you needed really was like that night's sleep, right? To kind of be like, to figure out, it's that kind of what I said earlier about things start to kind of click into place. And that's something that Ricardo always brings up to us. Like, things will start to click. And as things click, then it gets easier. But when they're not clicking, sometimes you have an off night. And I, he'll straight up look at us and be like, "You're having an off night. Shake it off, forget about it, keep going." Consistency and discipline are how you get better.
Yeah. It's less about, just the technical training, and more about building a culture. And I feel like he's doing that super well down there with you guys. But let's just get back into your stuff. So you make that debut, like you said, Downtown Showdown.
Yeah, man.
Talk us through that, the thoughts and feelings prior, and then, in it and afterwards, just everything.
So there's obviously a lot of lead time going into getting ready for a show. And whether it's 3 weeks or 1 week or whatever, however long it is, from the time your match gets announced, I had this feeling of like, I kind of describe it as like, hurry up and wait, for people who know that feeling. So it was like, okay, and get here's my promo, and here's my tickets that I've sold for the show. For everybody who wants to come and see me, and here's the nights of training, and the nights of training, and the nights of training, and practicing and practicing and practicing, and can I throw this hammer? Can I my corkscrew splash, what do I need to do to make that really pop? And I got to get up in the air, and what's he going to try to do back to me? And when he's we had the benefit that we had Jarl Matthias and I had faced each other on a student showcase, which if you haven't, for any of your followers who haven't seen Three Legacies Wrestling on their YouTube channel, the student showcase shows that are on there. And those are smaller events that happen inside the school. They're monthly, and they're entirely students. But Jarl Matthias and I had a match previously.
It is I, Adrian Soriano,
Matthew Ullman, Gabriel Hatter, baby.
And we are All Fight, No Flight, Primal Fear. And we hope you're enjoying this Apples and Grapes podcast.
Make sure you like, subscribe, and let's get back to the action.
By the time I got to the Downtown Showdown, Joey Image talked about it. I had my entire pec was covered in bruising. I had my bicep. I'm pretty sure I had like a little baby bicep tear that had been bruising all the way down my arm.
Man.
A week later, I had a black eye from an incident with Al Snook. Between the Downtown Showdown and the All for One, he gave me a black eye. And I'm real excited to get back on him on that. But there's all this excitement and emotion, and then you hear your entry music, you're at the day of, everything's all set to go, and you step through that curtain and you hear that crowd explode.
Yeah.
And that moment drives home something that you've been saying the whole time, that I'm not going out there for me. You know, I'm not climbing into this ring and beating up Jarl Matthias for me.
Right.
I'm doing this for everybody in this crowd. You know, I'm going to get in here and I'm going to thrash the Iron Tyrant around for every single person who knows what it feels like to have somebody come in and boss them around and tell them what to do. We didn't give them a chance. Everybody who's ever had somebody taken from them by force, that's why I'm stopping this guy.
Yeah.
You know, and when I'm in the ring and I hear that crowd chanting USA, USA, and it's so much bigger than me. You know, I kind of feel like I'm a medium of the crowd's belief and want of this to happen for them.
Yeah, they're channeling their energy through you in a lot of ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then afterwards,
I stepped back through the curtain afterward, and I remember I walked in and I looked at Ricardo, who just looked at me, and he kind of on show day, he kind of does this like half smile and he goes, "Good." And like, that's all you need.
Right. More kind of thing.
That's all you need in that moment is for just somebody to say, "Hey, good."
Yep. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you realize that, like, oh man, my chest is on fire from getting chopped, and my forearms hurt from landing on them. And, you know, you're thinking about, you know, my hand slipped when I went through the corkscrew. And you're thinking about all the places where you went wrong and everything. And you're just like, okay, but at the end of the day, I pinned him. I got back out here, you know, and of course, then the cool thing that happens is all these wrestlers who I've been watching for months at shows start coming up to you and shaking your hand and saying, you know, hey, I watched it and you did a good job.
Yeah.
And giving you little trinkets of advice that then your next match is so much better.
Yeah. But yeah, just to touch back on the student showcase stuff, we kind of grazed over that, but that's amazing. It's a great platform to see some of the students without like their official debut and imagine stuff like Naeem, AJ, like before. Now AJ's debuted since then, but just Jay and even those guys before, and that's just such a great way. I love that he has that channel to do that.
Yeah,
that's amazing. But yeah, just moving on, like for people who haven't seen you or you know don't follow you yet, like how would you describe kind of your style? Like, who is the Kilt Man? I know you have you're like flipping tires, you're carrying logs, you're on brand right now with your backdrop and the log. Your house is really like a log cabin. I mean,
this is my house. This is like, this is not
you live it.
You know, I you know, this is not really a gimmick. You know, this is who I am as a person.
Even the little stuff, like I notice you seem like poetic and you're very deep, like that goes into it a lot. And I think nuance plays a big role. Like even just something as simple as a small Instagram post, I can tell you put a lot of thought into. Like just how do you kind of encompass that? How do you sort of, you know, make that part of the wrestling stuff?
Well, so I'm very fortunate that, and I've said this before, that I stand on the shoulders of giants. And there are so many people who have come before me who have done so much that I've been able to kind of look at and be like, wow, that's what I want to do. And the Instagram, my Instagram posts you talked about, where I'll sometimes throw something up. It'll, you know, random I'll talk about whatever's on my mind.
Mhm.
And I want to, all those, when I throw those photos up there, that's a photo I took. So I walk around and I carry cameras with me almost all the time. I'm all, you ask my kids, I'm the most annoying dad there is, because I have one pocket and a mirrorless camera in another, and I'm just taking pictures of people all the time.
Yeah.
And things, and it's just I like documenting all that stuff. And then I'll sometimes have like a day or an hour or 15 minutes where like I need to tell myself something.
Mm.
Like
Right.
I woke, like I'll wake up and I'll be like, you know what? I need to hear this. And it's usually on those days that I decide that if I needed to hear that today, there's somebody else out there who might need to hear it too.
Mm. Yeah.
And I'm big on if you can help just one person, if every day you can help just one person, everything will be better.
Yeah.
I have a very good friend of mine. His name is Tony Rudy, and he runs Bacon Barbell Club out in Warminster, PA. And Bacon Barbell Club is free.
Wow.
And it's for the Warminster high school students.
Okay.
And he has their parents will come to and lift, and he runs it out of his house.
Wow.
And he feeds these kids. He gets these kids lifting gear that they need for competitions. He has the whole gym. And it's all just out of the kindness of his heart. And he says, when you get up in the morning, you got to tell yourself, like, have fun, learn something new, and make a friend. Right? If you can do those three things, it's been a successful day.
Yeah. It's powerful.
Yeah. And that's something where, like, when I talk about these things, like these are the guys who I see, who I'm inspired by. And even if you follow Ricardo, Ricardo throws stuff up there. Chris Dreisbach throws stuff up there that I see, and I'm just like, man.
Yeah.
So when I have an opportunity to pay that forward, I always love to. I draw a lot of inspiration from my grandfathers, from my dad and his brothers, my uncles, from my mom, and the strength that they have shown against adversity in their lives, and the adversity that I've been through myself, and just kind of how can I get that across to somebody else?
Yeah. I think that's super important that you mentioned, just even like your dad, your grandparents, people like that. I think it's a skill to be able to like tap into anything and like find value in like any type of resource. Like, of course you can find inspiration watching a John Cena interview. Of course you can, all those guys, but being able to tap into like, what's around you is super valuable. I think you have a good hold on that, obviously. Do you have any dream matches, whether it's, WWE, even if it's indie scene, stuff like that? Any dream matches for you?
Well, I gotta tell you, this next match I have coming up at the next student showcase, that's announced. That's kind of a dream match for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Because so this Saturday, Gift and a Curse, we're still waiting on, I mean, Hawthorne, we have the open audition out there.
Yep.
I showed up to the open audition, Chris Alcalde, Zoe Cannon. There's a whole bunch of us there, Elena Nero, and
nothing.
Still waiting.
What's he waiting for?
Picks.
Yeah.
I would love nothing more than to have the opportunity to restore honor to that title after what Hawthorne has done to it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But aside from that, right, because that's like I personally that was my debut show when Hawthorne slid in and I keep saying this, Tanya Harding broke Heller.
Mhm.
Okay, he waited till Shannon Moore did all the work, and then he came in and started. If you haven't watched, I mean, go back and watch it. That's exactly what happened, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
On a personal note, though,
Mhm.
on a personal note, the next student showcase, it's been announced that opportunity against Al Snook,
Oh, that would be a good one.
and I'm, Al was my friend. I mentioned I said to you earlier, like, Al was my mentor. He was my
Yeah.
friend, my mentor. I treated this guy like family.
Mhm.
Okay, and he jumps up and it spears Ricardo for Money and Muscles, turns his back on the entire academy. Okay, so when
Right.
Ricardo announced that I was going to have a chance against him at the next student showcase, this is personal.
Mm,
This is
absolutely.
personal. This is
Yeah,
personal. Yeah,
for sure. And we still never heard from Al, radio silence on his end, no explanation. That's weird,
nothing.
right?
He hasn't said anything.
That's kind of crazy.
I tell you what, though, I'm gonna try to beat the answer out of him in the ring.
I was gonna say somebody's got to find out,
Yep.
But
Yeah, and I mean, aside from that, then now we're talking about moving into the June 29th show and August 3rd, Rumble 2,
yep.
Barnstormer Stadium. Tickets go on sale Friday for that show. Matches haven't been announced, but that's I think they're going to start getting announced soon. There's some potential there that I don't know what's on the I don't know who's coming, what's on the schedule, but I would just love to be a part of that show.
Yeah.
To be part
Maybe
of the second
in the
Rumble
Rumble yourself.
yeah.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
2,500 people last year.
Yeah, that was amazing.
It was huge, and we're talking about doing it again this year.
Mm-hmm.
Coming off of some really just stellar stuff, and last year we had Shannon Moore, we had Rhino, we had Dirty Dango, all come in. We had Snitsky was there last year. Just a stellar lineup, and I foresee this being every bit as cool all the way around.
Yeah, absolutely. So from what I understand, that's kind of like you guys Mania, it seems like. And then I think it's important to have some of those shows that like stay the same.
Mhm.
Like do you know if there's any plans to like keep the Downtown Showdown thing, or like I know a lot of the indie promotions they change the name like kind of like month to month, even year to year, but I think it's important to have those staples, like even WWE, just they only have like the 4 major ones.
Right.
So you got your Red Rose Rumble, and then perhaps like a Downtown Showdown can stick around. I think it's important to have those recurring shows.
And I'll tell you what, they Ricardo and Chris and Bobby and Ron, they all listen when the fans start saying something. I mean, that's why Gatson came back.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was there that first time, and everybody was like, "Oh man, this guy's awesome. We got to see this again." So
he can move, man. That's crazy.
If you guys like the Downtown Showdown, if that was a cool show, if that was a big show, get on YouTube, drop in the comment section, let them know, because they are absolutely listening.
Yeah. I think that's important. I mean, you covered it. I was going to preview things coming up, gift and a curse, everything like that, but you're on it, man. And then just before I get you out of here, no pun intended, what would you like your kind of legacy at Three Legacies to be? If we're looking in the future and say you were to move on to, some other things, like what do you want your legacy there specifically to look like?
I guess I would want to be remembered as the guy who always had your back.
Love that.
But is also going to really hit you hard.
Yeah. You want to remember the pain too. You want to leave physical imprints and emotional.
Oh yeah. I try very much to be a heavy hitter. And so, yeah, I'd like to be the guy that everybody remembers and like, oh yeah, no, yeah, he'd give you the shirt off his back and then he'd knock you on the ground with it. But
Right. He let you keep it though.
yeah, let's keep it.
Yeah. No, that's amazing, man. That was great. I've been meaning to, wanting to do this for a while now.
I appreciate the opportunity so much because I mean, you're an awesome supporter for 3LW. You know, you've had some of their other guys on. Absolutely, love helping you out. Love being a part of this, and I love having another opportunity to talk to everybody out there and just spread what we're doing. And just this is everything that we have to offer. So I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, 1000%. Before I let you go, if you just want to plug your socials, where can we find you for anybody that doesn't already?
Yeah, so obviously, if you want to support Three Legacies Wrestling, the best way to do that is in person with a ticket. Tickets go on sale Friday for the Friday, May 17th for the Red Rose Rumble 2. Tickets are still available for May 18th, Gift and a Curse. Not sure when this is going to come out. June 29th, though, that would be the next show, Come Alive. That would be the Lebanon Expo Center show. And then if you want to find me personally, you can always find the Three Legacies Wrestling YouTube channel and find me on there. And then on Instagram, I'm the Kilt Man. And on Facebook, I'm Byron Simmons.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Again, Byron, thank you so much. I can't wait to watch your journey, see where it takes you and everything like that. Thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.